Good evening, everyone.
If you just give me a minute, I'm trying to get you up and running.
Hello, Bob.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Hey, Charlie.
Hey, Guy, how's it going?
Good.
World's treating you halfway decent, I hope.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad.
Good.
Okay, Mark, anytime you want to.
Okay, I see it's 6 o'clock, but maybe we should wait for a couple of members, more members. Bill Ryan, Herb Case are not here. Well, okay, it is 6 o'clock, so then we should start. So I call the zoning board to order. We're coming to you obviously via Zoom here because of the governor's orders. And first, I should start, since we're on Zoom, just to make sure who's here among the members. So I'll call a roll, and Fred Berendorf
Here.
is here, and Herb Case, Bill Ryan, George Goulart,
Here.
Tack Eddie,
I'm here.
Charles Hall,
Yeah,
and Mike Volcarelli.
Here.
Okay, so we have, and myself, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 members here out of 8. So tonight, the people who will be voting will be myself, Fred Berendorf, George Goulart, Tack Eddie, and Charles Hall. So Mike, you're the alternate. Great. I also should note that we have with us today our attorney, Allison Quay. Ex officio, we have Carol Wardell, who's making all this possible, and Edie Marion, I think, is probably here. And we have our court reporter, and Nancy from Allied. And since we're doing this via Zoom and with a court reporter, you know, we need to speak. I tell myself we need to speak slowly and clearly, and give our names before we're speaking. Okay, so first order of business would be to call for the approval of the minutes. We have minutes from August 12th. And does anyone have any changes or corrections to make with the minutes of August 12th? They've been circulated. We all should have read them. If not, then I move that we approve the minutes.
Second.
All those in favor? I think we can say
Aye.
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 Please,
Okay.
for the record, you should do a roll call, please.
Okay, so I'll do a roll call, and Fred Berendorf,
Yes.
George Goulart,
Aye.
Tack Eddie,
Aye.
Charles Hall,
aye.
Mike Focarelli,
He's not voting, Mark.
pardon?
I'm not
Yeah.
voting, Mark.
On the minutes, though, I thought. you
Okay,
voted.
aye.
And then I vote aye too. Okay, great. So the minutes of August 12th are approved. And now we have the minutes of August 19th. I move that if there are any comments or corrections? If none, then I move that we approve the minutes of August 19th.
Second.
So I'll poll the members. Fred Berendorf,
Aye.
George Goulart,
Aye.
Tack Eddie,
Aye.
Charles Hall,
Aye.
Mike Focarelli,
Aye.
and I say aye as well. So the minutes are approved. Okay, so the agenda tonight, we're going to take them in the order of the petition of Sakonnet Light Real Estate with Lucinda Jewell as manager. Then next, and maybe beginning at 7, we'll see how that works out. Petition of Robert and Mary S. Mara. And then thirdly, again, this would be after 7, the petition of Wilma Bruning and Lee Scott Chase. And I know tonight we're dealing with petitions for both variances and special use permits. And just to be clear, to approve a variance or a special use permit requires 4 out of 5 votes. Okay, so I think we should start with the petition of Secana Light Real Estate with Lucinda Jewell as manager. And TAC, if you could read the Secretary, TAC, if you could read the public notice of this petition.
I'll be glad to. Petition of Secana Light Real Estate LLC, parentheses, Lucinda Jewell, manager, end of parentheses, owner of the subject property located at 46 Taylor's Lane South. Nancy, how's my speed? Nancy?
Yep, you're fine.
Okay, thanks. Taylor's Lane South, Little Compton, Rhode Island, tax assessors plat 6, lots 18-1 and 82, requesting a special use permit pursuant to section 14-2.5 F, F as in Frank, of the zoning ordinance. Applicant desires to demolish an existing non-conforming 624 square foot garage on lot 81-1 and use a portion of the existing garage slab to erect thereon a new studio/storage area of 390 square feet. The proposed new accessory structure will be 37.5% smaller than the existing garage. Petitioner proposes to merge said lots 81-1 and 82 to create a single lot of 3.029 acres, as well as remove the existing house and erect a new single-family dwelling on the newly created single lot. Petitioner seeks the following relief: : 1, rear yard variance pursuant to section 14-4.1 to allow the proposed new single-family dwelling to be 17.4 feet from the east boundary line. 2, front yard variance pursuant to section 14-4.1 to allow an existing garden shed to be 28 feet from the west boundary line, that being Taylor's Lane South, also known as Lincoln Avenue. And 3, rear yard variance pursuant to section 14-4.1 to allow existing slab, parens, the garage is to be demolished per above, end of parens, within 25 feet of the east boundary line. Any zoning board approval, parens S, end of parens, will be conditioned on petitioner's receipt of any and all subsequent necessary Coastal Resources Management Council. That's it, Mark.
Terrific. I'm sorry, was there a special use permit in there too, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay. Have we received a letter from the planning board regarding this petition?
we have, I'll read just the salient portion of it, not trying to be repetitive. It's dated August 4, 2020, addressed to you, Mark. Second paragraph reads, Attorney David Luff was present along with the applicant, Mrs. Jewell, and Donald Medeiros of Cable Engineering. Attorney Luff noted that an administrative subdivision of lots 81-1 and 82 was approved by the planning board at their meeting on June 2, 2020. Mr. Spears stated that he would suggest that there be a change in the plan which shows the new plan only and not the existing property line. Also, the plan does not show the wetland buffer. Attorney Luff noted that the eastern boundary of the house setback will remain the same as the existing structure. The applicants are retaining most of the perimeter wetland setback. Mr. Marinowski, that's M-A-R-I-N-O-S-C-I, questioned Mr. Medeiros as to whether the building official is going to accept the slab for future use, to which Mr. Medeiros replies that he doesn't know yet. Mr. Marinowski's concern was that if the old slab is removed, what would be used as a base for the new structure? Attorney Luff replied that they would work with the Coastal Resources Management Council to make sure that any replacement of the slab complies with Coastal Resources Management Council regulations. Ms. Sattel questioned the detail on the plan showing a kitchenette on the second floor. Attorney Luff replied that this will be a small family dwelling, and Mrs. Jewell stated that she has aging relatives who stay with her for a few months at a time, and that the new kitchenette would be for their use. The existing septic system is to be replaced. Mr. Cady made a motion that the planning board send a letter to the zoning board stating that if the zoning board were to approve the requested variance, it would have a minimum impact on the comprehensive plan. It would meet NR 1.A, which is groundwater protection, LU 1.B, which is low-density building, and LU 2.A, which is minimum impact on the infrastructure because you are going with a new ISDS. Motion seconded by Mr. Marinowski. Voting to approve were Mr. Spears, Mr. Katie, Ms. Woodhouse, Ms. Satel, Mr. Marinowski, Mr. Torchia, Torchia, Mr. Murphy, and Mr. Ross. Opposed, none. Sincerely, Edie Marion, clerk.
Thank you very much. And who is here representing Sakana Light Real Estate?
Yes, this is Jerry Petros representing Lucinda Jewell, the manager of Sakonnet Light Real Estate LLC. And with me is my colleague, David Loff.
Okay, if you could proceed.
I will. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you to all the members of the board for this opportunity to present our application to the zoning board tonight. As Tack mentioned, Lucinda Jewell seeks a dimensional variance and a special use permit. By way of introduction, I think it's fair to say that this is an atypical application. In most cases, certainly in many cases, applicants seeking variances and special use permits are seeking to do more, sometimes far more, with their property than is allowed as of right under the ordinance. And there's nothing wrong with that. It happens all the time and is often approved. And this board often approves those applications. But here, Lucinda seeks, in many respects, to do less than she might otherwise do with these two lots. Most prominently, as Tack mentioned, she is proposing to merge two separate lots and then create from those two lots a conforming lot, a lot that will be approximately 3 acres in size. She also seeks permission to reduce the size of a non-conforming accessory structure to approximately 37% smaller, not 50% greater, but 37% smaller than its current size. And in exchange, what she's asking the board for permission to do is to build a new single-family house. So essentially the same size as the house that she currently lives in on the property on one of the lots. And she proposes to center that new house on the center of the merged lots. And by that, I mean, as you can see from the configurations, there are a lot of wetlands on these two lots. They cover approximately 67% of the two lots. Wetlands on 67%. She proposes to build the new home in the center upland dry area of those two lots. And so in many respects, we think it's an uncommon and hopefully a compelling application. And we hope that the board will agree with us tonight on that. So let me back up and talk about some of the specifics and then talk about the presentation of evidence that we have for the board tonight. As Tack mentioned, Lucinda owns lots 81-1 and 82 on Assessors Plat 6. They're each substandard lots of record. She has already initiated an administrative proceeding to merge those two lots for the planning board. If the zoning board grants the relief that she requests tonight, as I mentioned, she will demolish the existing house on 81-1. There is only one house on 81-1. There's no house on lot 82. And she proposes, as I said a moment ago, to build a new home on the merged lot. She will need relief from several setback requirements, as Tack properly noted a moment ago in summarizing the application. The need for that relief is because, as I mentioned a moment ago, and as you can see on the plans, the lots are covered predominantly by wetlands. And so she has to try to fit things in as currently configured and as will be configured in the center of the lot in the best possible position. Lucinda also intends to knock down an existing garage that is approximately 624 square feet. On that slab, hopefully, build a smaller 390 square foot accessory structure. As Tack mentioned again, her intent here is to use that portion of the existing slab to build a personal studio, for writing and also some storage and an exercise area. Mr. Chair, as you mentioned, she needs a special use permit because she is demolishing a non-conforming structure. And so she has requested both a variance for the setback requirements and a special use permit with respect to the demolition and reconstruction of this non-conforming accessory structure. As TAC also mentioned, Lucinda will need approvals from CRMC due to the coastal wetlands issues. But as you all know quite well, better than I, CRMC requires us to first exhaust and obtain our local approvals before they consider issuing an assent. Now, with respect to the presentation of evidence, I spoke to Dick Humphrey, and I know he spoke with Allison. And as we've done at least on one occasion before with the zoning board, and we intend to do again this evening, we're going to follow a procedure that the Public Utility Commission follows all the time, which is we have prepared written, sworn, direct testimony for two of our experts. Hopefully, every member of the board has now seen that testimony. It's not 100 pages. It's fairly brief, and it contains the reports for these two experts as well. The reports and the testimony are submitted by Scott Rabideau, who's a wetland scientist, and by Peter Scotti, who's a real estate expert. They are both participating by Zoom this evening, and they will be available to be sworn in and to answer any questions that the board may have about this application or about their testimony. In addition, we have available to the board as necessary Don Medeiros, our civil engineer, and also the architect, Wayne Jakes, is available again to address any questions on the application materials that they submitted. Together, Scott and Peter discussed the requirements for relief sought and explain why, in their opinion, the proposed project meets each of the requirements with respect to the variance and the special use permit. Now, let me take a moment before we turn to testimony. Let me sort of summarize, I'll say, the testimony of both Scott and Peter. Scott Rabideau, as probably all of you know, has extensive experience as a wetland scientist. I think he's highly regarded in his field throughout the state before both zoning boards, city councils, and I know courts as well. Scott has worked on a number of projects in Little Compton and throughout the state, and we're happy to have him on our team working on this project. In his testimony, as you will see, he describes the parcels and he explains the location and the impact of the wetlands involved here. Scott goes on to explain and offer his opinion as to how and why the merger and the proposed construction of the new single-family home will advance environmental and ecological objectives here. He also explains the hardship created by the wetlands on the properties, and he describes how the project will support the policies in the town's comprehensive plan, such as the low-density development and the protection of water quality. Scott's testimony and report are in the materials. Hopefully you have them. And if I could ask the chair, could we mark Scott's testimony as an exhibit in this proceeding? And that testimony includes his report.
Yes, go ahead. So be it.
Thank you. Thank you. And then secondly, Peter Scotti. Peter, again, is a real estate expert. I know he's testified or submitted testimony to the Little Compton Zoning Board in the past, and he's testified frequently throughout the state. And like Scott, he's highly regarded in his area. Peter's opinions are set forth in his testimony. I won't repeat them all, but essentially he explains and offers opinions to show that in this case, Lucinda is not trying to maximize value. To the contrary, she is relinquishing a valuable right by forfeiting a development opportunity on a second lot in a wonderful, beautiful, desirable area of Little Compton. The proposed new structure, as Peter testifies, will not alter the character of the neighborhood, but it will conform with the surrounding properties, as I know you're all even more familiar with that area than I am. but it's plainly visible even in the materials submitted to the board. And as Peter notes, the project is consistent with the policies of the comprehensive plan, as I think the planning board found as well, and hopefully you will too. Peter notes that the project will not in any way diminish the values in the neighborhood. It will support those values. And he also offers his opinion that the denial of this application will certainly result in more than a mere inconvenience to Lucinda. Now, all of that testimony is given under oath. And Mr. Chair, if I could I ask you also to mark as an exhibit Peter's testimony, which also has a copy of his report.
Yes, this would be Exhibit B.
Thank you. So let me pause here. Scott and Peter are here on Zoom. They are available to be sworn in and answer any questions under oath that the board may have. So let me pause first and ask the chair and the other members of the board if they have any questions for either Scott and Peter. And perhaps we could start.
Are there any questions for the two experts? I had a question regarding the floodplain. I'm sorry, Tack, I didn't see you. Just
Go ahead.
This is out of the floodplain as I look at the site plan. I don't know who could answer that.
Scott, could you address that?
Actually, it's probably a better question for Don Medeiros if he's on. He's the surveyor and the engineer. He would be able to authenticate that for you.
Okay. Don, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Would you like me to just swear everybody that you think is going to be talking?
Yes, please.
Don
Okay,
Medeiros?
I swear Mr. Medeiros, Mr. Rabidou, and
Mr. Scotty.
Scotty. If you'll all raise your right hand, please. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Okay, could you each state your name for the record?
My name is Scott Rabidou, R-A-B-I-D-E-A-U. I'm a professional wetland scientist. The company is Natural Resource Services, Inc.
Thank you. Next. Mr. Medeiros.
I'm Donald Medeiros, professional civil engineer and professional land surveyor with Able Engineering in Little Compton.
Mr. Scotty. You need to unmute.
Need to unmute. Lower right, left hand. Mr. Scotty,
Mr. Scotty?
need to unmute. It's the lower left hand, left side of your screen. Okay.
Okay,
Come back.
there we go.
again.
All right. Peter M. Scotty, S-C-O-T-T-I. I am a certified general appraiser in the state of Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Connecticut.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Are there questions?
So
Tack-
Don,
or no, I'm-
could you address the question about the floodplain, please?
Certainly, the property does contain, a portion of the property is in the flood zone, and that is zone AE 14. However, all of the proposed improvements and work is outside of the flood zone or at a higher elevation than that flood zone.
So the improvements are above the flood zone.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Right, thank you. And you still have to get CRMC approval. So,
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, Tack, do you have a question?
Jerry, could you have either or both Scott or Peter elaborate on the mere inconvenience standard?
Sure. So Scott, could you go first and talk about the hardship here and how it applies to the standard?
Sure. So as evidenced by the plan, there are freshwater wetlands around the entirety of the existing development. And the freshwater wetland was classified by the CRMC in their preliminary determination as a marsh. So there is a 50-foot perimeter wetland that would normally be associated with it. In order to create a more environmentally sensitive situation, by taking down the house, centering it on the property, and upgrading the septic system to an advanced treatment denitrification system, you have to merge the lots in order to get all this to work. So if you were not able to do that, it would be, you know, from an environmental perspective, current situation is worse than the proposed situation. So I don't know if that answers the question. I'm not an attorney, so if you have a specific, Jerry, on how to answer that specifically, go ahead.
No, I think you did, Scott, but if TAC wants to follow up, I would invite it and welcome it.
I'm good with that. Thank you, Scott.
You're
Could I
welcome.
ask Peter to add to that if I could, TAC?
Sure. 2 points on the more than a mere inconvenience. The applicant is seeking to make this property more in conformance with current zoning. Furthermore, the structure is going to be designed to withstand severe weather events. If you look at the existing structure, it's pretty well exposed to the weather. So
Thank you, Peter.
Could someone address the
Okay.
existing septic system? The existing septic system, what's there now?
Don, could you talk about that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the existing septic system is a conformed 3-bedroom system conformed by RIDEM. Let's see. Let's see, application, I'm sorry. 1987. 1987, the septic system was installed and conformed by RIDEM.
And the new system is going to be how much better?
Yeah, the 1987 system, of course, that was done under the then standards, which were much less stringent. Since that time, there's been major strides in identification and classification of soils. There's been significant advances in wastewater treatment technology. A whole bunch of professionals, DEM personnel, private engineers and land surveyors and soil scientists have all been educated together with the cooperation of URI and so forth. So we're a lot smarter than we were in 1987, and we're doing it a lot better. So even though the 1987 system was conformed by DEM and it was basically a traditional gravity, stone trench type leach field, what we're proposing, an advanced treatment denitrification system of today is far superior from an environmental standpoint, and also from a land disruption standpoint as well. As you know, these systems have a very small footprint.
And
Hey, Scott.
how far is the new system from the wetlands border?
Just a minute, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could, while looking up at that, could I ask Scott Rabideau to comment a little bit further on the denitrification system? Because I think he has some experience there too.
Sure. Well, the denitrification system, as Don pointed out, the systems from 1987 had no treatment capacity in them. The effluent came out of the septic tank and went into a leach field, and it traveled through some crushed stone. A scum layer developed on the bottom of the leach field, and that was your filtration. The soils had to take care of the rest of it, removal of those nutrients that are in that effluent. The advanced treatment systems today, they can take, and Don will probably know this better than me, but at least 50% of the nitrogen out of the effluent prior to getting into the leach field. So you're still getting the capacity of the soils to treat effluent, but it's at a diluted level, so it's far superior. So I know that your comprehensive plan speaks to that in how can we protect groundwater and surface waters from pollution? Well, anytime we can encourage the replacement of a conventional septic system with a denitrification septic system, you are doing that. Even in some cases, Mr. Chairman, if it's closer to the wetland. I know that might sound counterintuitive, but the existing leach field is in very close proximity. I'm trying to look over at the plan. I don't have it on the screen here. So, but it's in very close proximity to the wetland.
Right, it's right up against it.
Yeah, and so a denitrification system, whether it's a bottomless sand filter or some type of geomat, even if that were in the same proximity to the wetland, the treatment capacity of that system protects the water quality in the wetland. So it's a benefit, and it should be encouraged wherever possible to replace these systems with the new technologies.
Did someone tell me the distance between the leach fields?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Don Maderas, to
Yeah.
answer your question. So the existing, into a question that was also posed during Scott's answer, the existing leach field is approximately 18 feet to the existing edge of wetlands at its closest point. And the proposed is the closest component of the proposed is the bottomless sand filter, which is 24 feet. So we're going from an existing dimension of 18 to a proposed dimension of 24 for the septic leaching area.
What I see here is that the approximate leaching field looks like it's right up against the wetlands.
That's correct.
So, but I mean, it's not 24 feet, looks even closer than that. That is 24 feet. Okay, I can see that. Why aren't you applying for a variance from the setback from wetlands?
Because the regulation does not apply to administrative subdivisions, and this would be an administrative subdivision, although it's a joinder instead of a split. But we think that it clearly doesn't apply here.
But you're building a new structure, and the fact that you're doing that and the septic system is within the state's guideline of 50 feet, and town prefers 100 feet. I'm just curious why you're not asking for a variance.
So whenever you do an administrative subdivision, typically you're building a new structure, and the way that your regulation reads, I know you're more familiar with it than I am, but I think it's the second sentence of the regulation exempts properties that were subject to an administrative subdivision, presumably because these were non-conforming lots of record at the time that regulation was adopted, which is typical, I think, in most jurisdictions. And so we don't believe it applies. I know we had spoken to the building official, who I think holds the same opinion, that the 100-foot setback does not apply. I will note, Mr. Chair, that obviously the DEM CRMC regulations apply, and we still have to go to CRMC and get their approval. And as you probably know, and I think Scott can confirm, CRMC looks very closely at the impact of septic systems on coastal wetlands. And I have no doubt that this will be the subject of significant scrutiny, with some talented people at CRMC who frankly are quite well versed with respect to the advanced treatment systems.
Okay, thank you. Allison, would you agree with that, Allison, that the administrative subdivision is exempt?
Well, that is the interpretation of the building official. So it could be interpreted another way, but that is how our building official has interpreted it.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Don Maderas, if I
Don.
may, to add to Mr. Petros's testimony and qualify Allison's, if that's the proper way to say it. At the time that administrative exemption, wetland exemption was established, the thought process was that the town wanted to encourage applicants to merge their properties. When they had small lots, contiguous small lots of record, that exemption was engineered in there, so to speak, to encourage exactly what the applicant's proposing here tonight. Sorry for interrupting.
No, thank you. That helps a lot. Anyone else with questions? Anyone else?
So, Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to wrap up my presentation. It'll just take a minute if that's okay.
I just had one question related to the ownership. It says Seconic Light Real Estate, and it's managed by Ms. Jewell, but Ms. Jewell is the owner of this.
That's correct.
And Seconic Light Real Estate is not looking to profit from this or to. I'm a little confused about the structure there. I'm not a lawyer, so.
Yeah, so that's fine. It's an LLC. Linda Jewell is the manager, and David, I think she's the member as well. But to go directly to your profit question, as I think is set forth quite clearly in Mr. Scotty's testimony, if this were a development company looking to profit, most developers would probably certainly look to develop 2 homes or keep the existing home and develop a second home and sell it or sell the lot. Obviously, this is, I think in some respects, as Don said a moment ago, you want to encourage, instead of splitting lots, you want to encourage joining lots, making two smaller lots into one conforming lot. So in many respects, Lucinda Jewell is doing the right thing here. I hope that we can all support that and encourage it. I know that precedents are important in all of our businesses, including yours. And so we think that's what she's doing here, not seeking to profit, but actually in many respects doing the right thing. And so just to sum up, Mr. Chair, we think the application meets all the requirements.
Can I
for
just
both-
follow up on that? So
please.
Seconic
Please.
Light Real Estate is not in the business of developing sites for profit.
Well, let me pause and see if Mr. Loff is familiar with the history of the LLC. I'm not. David, you?
Yeah, so as was indicated, Lucinda had formed the limited liability company for the sole purpose of the ownership of this property. She is not a developer of real estate. She, again, and this is a very common effort here among property owners, is to form a limited liability company. She's the sole member. And that's it. She's not a developer in the pure developer sense. This is just a mechanism or a vehicle to own the real estate here in Little Compton.
Thank you. That answers my question.
I got a couple of questions, David, if I may. Lot 79, which is mentioned on the letter of authorization on the other side of Lincoln Avenue. What's going to happen to that?
Yeah, so TAC, that lot is not the subject of any relief being sought here. I believe there's a small structure on that lot, and I'm not sure what is going to be done with that in the future, but that lot is separate and apart, and it's not in any way relevant to any of the relief that's being sought in connection with this application. That's all I can tell you on that, and that's all that I know.
I only raised the question because it was in your authorization letter in the Ray line. Another question, David. I once knew a gentleman named Pliny Jewell who was a seasonal resident. Is your applicant, your client, is she a relation to him?
Yes. Hi, Mr. Eddy. Yes, it's Lucinda. I am Pliny and Ann's granddaughter.
Thank
And it's
you.
because of them, our family has enjoyed the beauty of this area for many, many years. And it is thanks to your parents or grandparents that my grandparents came down here. So thank you, sort of tangentially.
Very well.
Any further questions?
Not for me.
Mr. Petros, you want to sum up?
I think I just did, Mr. Chair.
Sorry.
Again, we hope that the application meets all the requirements, and we urge the board to consider and approve both requests for relief this evening.
Okay. Is there any discussion among the board? Does someone want to make a motion?
Do you want to split it, Mark, between a special use permit and the?
Yeah, that's a great idea, Fred. So one for special use, and which is regarding to taking down the garage, and the other one would be 3 variances for setbacks. So maybe.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I just want to make sure that there's no abutters present that want to speak.
thank you very much. Are there any abutters present who wish to speak?
I see no hands being raised.
Thank you, Carol. Thanks, Allison.
And there's no one in the council chambers here other than Carol and myself.
Okay. So does someone want to make a motion on the special use permit?
I'll move, Mark, to approve it, special use required here.
Okay, is there a second?
Second, and Fred, would you amend that to have it conditioned on CRMC approval?
Do you think that's necessary for this part of it? I mean, that's certainly necessary on the variances.
I would recommend that we go with both.
Okay, no problem.
Any other discussion of the motion? Okay, then I will poll the members. Excuse me. Mr. Berndorf? All those,
Yes.
well, we have a question here. Mr. Case, you came in late, so I'm not sure how late you came in. Were you here? You're muted too. We can't hear you. Got to take the mute off. There you go.
He had just started reading the request when I joined.
Okay, so then Mr. Case would be voting. Mr. Case, how would you vote on this?
Yes.
Mr. Goulart
Yes.
and Mr. Eddy.
Yep.
Okay, and then I'll be the fifth of five, and so I would vote yes as well. So we have our 4 votes, and the special use permit is approved. How about a motion regarding the variances for setbacks? Does anyone have a motion?
Well, once again, Mark, I'll be glad to make a motion.
Thanks, Fred. Appreciate it.
I move that we approve all 3 variances, subject to the approval of whoever has to make it. CCM, did you say? I think.
CRMC.
Yeah. And are there any other conditions that anyone would like to add to this? If not, I'll let it stand just that way, to approve the 3 variances with the CCM prior, subject to the approval of the CCMZ. Yeah.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Who was speaking? Who seconded it? I'm sorry, just for the record.
George.
George Goulart seconds. Okay, and then I poll the members with Mr. Berndorf.
Yes.
Mr. Case.
Yes.
Mr. Goulart.
Yes.
Mr. Eddy.
Yes.
And I would vote yes as well. So that's 5 of 5. You only need 4. So congratulations. You have your variances and your special use permit.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the board.
And thank you for
Thank
going
you,
through-
everybody. I really
going through the
appreciate your
process.
time. Your time and attention. And Carol Wardell, I really want to thank you for all of the administrative stuff you've handled. I know it can't be easy, so thank you for doing what you do.
You're welcome.
Okay. So I'm advised that we should recess until 7 o'clock because the next 2 petitions were advertised in the paper for 7 o'clock. So, and the Maras would be up next. Is there any opposition?
Do you want to close this meeting and open a new one at 7?
No, we'll just recess.
Just recess it, I think.
Okay.
Yourself on mute if you'd like.
Do I need approval for that? Is there a vote required?
No, as chair, you can just state for the record that we're taking a brief recess until 7.
Okay, so thanks, Carol. We'll take a brief recess until 7. And then Mr. and Mrs. Mara will be up next. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Unmuted. Mhm. That's just a photo of my. Since it hasn't moved. Oh, that's Wilma.
Mark, I suggest when you call the meeting back to order that you do another roll call of attendance so it's clear who's still here.
Okay, thank you. So it's now 7 o'clock and I will call the meeting back to order. And we'll do another roll call to make sure to see who's here, members here. So Fred Berndorf. Fred, you got to unmute, Fred.
Hey, you're muted, Fred.
Lower left side of the screen.
There you go, Fred. You're off now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, terrific. And Herb Case is
Here.
and Bill Ryan. Okay. George Goulart.
Here.
Tack Eddie.
Here.
Charles Hall.
Here.
Michael Fulcarelli.
Here.
Okay. So and then I'm here. So we have 9 of we have 8, 7 of the 8. So we have a quorum. And again, in this case, a variance requires 4 out of 5 votes. So we turn now to the petition of Robert and Mary Mara. And I wonder if Tack, if you could read the public notice.
I will.
Those parts of it that you think we need to read in.
Petition of Robert A. and Mary S. Mara, owners of the subject property located at 28 and 32 Grange Avenue, Little Compton, Rhode Island, Assessors Plat 33, lots 5 and 6, seeking to construct a 345 square foot addition, remove an existing deck, and add a new deck to the existing house on lot 5. The project is to include an administrative subdivision of said 2 lots, parens adjustment of existing lot lines, and a parens to include an additional 12-foot strip of land taken from lot 6 and added to the southerly boundary of lot 5 to meet the 25-foot side yard setback for the above proposed improvements. This project will require variances as to lot 5 for the relief from the 100-foot wetland setback, wetland buffer setback, parens reference section 14-5.8B of the Little Compton zoning ordinance and the parens, and as to lot 6 for the relief from the minimum 175-foot street frontage requirement and the 175-foot minimum lot width at the building line. Parens reference section 14-4.1 of said Little Compton zoning ordinance and the parens.
Thank you very much. And have we heard from the planning board on this matter?
We have.
And if you could read the relevant portions of that.
The letter is addressed to you as chair. It's dated September 2nd, 2020. The relevant section reads, Mr. Cady made a motion to send a letter to the zoning board stating that the planning board has previously approved the administrative subdivision contingent on zoning board approval. The requested variance meets the goals of the comprehensive plan, section H1.A, housing, H1.C, aging in place, and LU1.A, the goal of which is to assist the elderly to stay in town. Motion seconded by Mr. Murphy. Voting in favor were Mr. Steers, Mr. Cady, Ms. Woodhouse, Ms. Sattel, Mr. Marinowski, Mr. Murphy, and Mr. Ross. Opposed, none. Mr. and Mrs. Mara left the meeting at this point. Sincerely, Edie Marion, clerk.
Thank you. And who's here representing the Maras?
Good evening again, Mr. Chairman. It's Jerry Petros and David Loft representing Rob and Mary.
Terrific. If you could proceed.
I will, thank you. And again, we appreciate the opportunity to present our application to the zoning board. So if I may start, this is a much more modest application than the one we just discussed at the 6 o'clock hour. Rob and Mary seek a variance that will allow them to build a handicap accessible bathroom on the first floor of their relatively modest home. Rob and Mary love Little Compton. They love their neighbors. They love the neighborhood and they love their home. And they want to live out their lives there as they have for the past 20 years now. And I would note that I first met Rob and Mary 20 plus years ago when they first came down to Little Compton, and I was involved in helping them get here, and they're delightful people. Like all of us, Rob and Mary are getting older, and they can see the day coming when climbing stairs to access a bathroom that is too small and not handicap accessible on a second floor will become impossible. Looking forward and being forward thinking as they both are, they want to build now a handicap accessible bathroom on the first floor, and that will make their first floor entirely handicap accessible and allow them to remain in the home even as they potentially and to some extent likely will lose some mobility and be restricted in their ability to go up and down stairs and require more space to access necessary functions like bathrooms. And so again, their hope is as they age, consistent with the policies of the comprehensive plan, they can age in place, they can stay in town, and they can stay in the neighborhood and the home that they've become so fond of over the last 2 decades. Now, again, with the presentation of evidence, we follow the same procedure we have in the earlier proceeding we had tonight. We've submitted a pre-file sworn written testimony by Scott Rabideau, who talks about the wetlands issues, and Peter Scotti, a real estate expert, who talks about some of the real estate issues. Again, as you know, Mr. Chair, they're both here by Zoom. Hopefully they're still here, and they'll be available for any questions that the zoning board may have. In addition, Don Medeiros is still with us. He is the civil engineer on this project. We also have the architect, Ashley Sparks, available to answer any questions that the members of the board may have. And I might ask, I think I will ask Rob or Mary to just testify briefly about this particular variance. We'll try to be efficient with our use of time. Together, Scott and Peter discussed the requirements for relief that we seek and explain why the proposed project meets each of those requirements. And as Tack said, the relief we seek here involves 2 elements. We need relief from the 100-foot wetland buffer setback and relief from the 175-foot minimum street frontage. I should say that the wetland setback involves lot 5, and the frontage setback and the lot width setback involves lot 6. They're adjacent lots, as you can see on the plot plans. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, and as you all know, Scott is a wetland scientist with extensive experience. And I think in summary, Scott's written testimony, again, under oath, provides the following critical opinions. Most importantly, the proposed addition will not result in any additional adverse impacts to the functions and values of the wetlands resource area. As you can see from the plans that we've submitted, the existing home itself is fairly close to the wetlands buffer. And I think that's maybe even an understatement. It's very close to the wetlands buffer. As Scott notes, when they originally built the house, Rob and Mary had to build a screening vegetation, plant screening vegetation that was required by DEM, by the DEM permit, to mitigate both the visual and auditory impacts from the existing residents. DEM authorized that construction, and so per force, DEM recognized that the measures taken to protect the wetlands were adequate and appropriate. And as you can see from the plans, the small addition to the existing home is on the side of the home that is away from the wetlands, not closest to the wetlands, but furthest from the wetlands. So by the nature of what DEM has already done, they've already confirmed that the existing structure, again, will not adversely impact the wetlands area. And as Scott talks about in his report and in his testimony, and we'll talk about it in more detail in a few moments, this addition will have no adverse impact on the wetland resource here. And by the way, as Scott notes, the entire house falls within the 100-foot buffer, so the Mayors cannot add any bathroom or addition to their house that would fall outside of the buffer, since the whole house is already inside of that buffer. And again, the small addition is located on the opposite side of the house, furthest from the buffer. You have, Mr. Chair, you have Scott's testimony, his reports attached to his testimony. Could I pause and request that the board accept his testimony as an exhibit and mark it appropriately?
Yes, I think we would call it Exhibit A.
Thank you. Peter Scotti testimony is also included, written testimony. And his testimony goes through the elements required appropriately under the ordinance to obtain a variance. His opinions note that the proposed structure will not alter the character of the neighborhood. It's impossible to conceive that a small addition like this would alter the character of any neighborhood. The project will not diminish values in the neighborhood. It will support values. The project certainly is consistent with the policies and the comprehensive plan, as the planning board noted. And the denial of the application will result in much more than a mere inconvenience, since the Mayors are trying to really, consistent with the town policies, age in place and make a small accommodation so they can stay in the home in the neighborhood that they've grown so fond of. All that testimony is given under oath, and Mr. Chair, if I could, I would ask that Mr. Scotti's testimony also be accepted and marked as an exhibit.
Mark it Exhibit B.
Thank you. So let me pause here, if I could, for a moment and see if the board has any questions for Scott or for Peter before I ask that Rob be sworn in. I ask Rob a few questions.
Allison, is there any need for us to swear them in again, since they were sworn in earlier, the three experts?
I think for a clean record, you might as well.
I agree.
Okay, if the court reporter could swear in the Scott Rabideau, Peter Scotti, and who's Don Medeiros.
And why don't we do Rob Mara as well, if we can do it all at once, Rob Mara.
Can I also have Mary sworn in, just in case there's a question for Mary?
And,
sure.
And Ashley, the architect. Is there the architect is here?
Yes, she is.
So can we do it as a group?
Certainly.
Nancy?
Okay, do you all swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so be gone?
I do.
I do.
Could you all,
if you can
let
all
me start with Scott. Scott, just for the record, will you state your name and occupation?
Sure. My name is Scott P. Rabideau, Rabideau. I'm a professional wetland scientist. I am the principal and the owner of Natural Resource Services, Inc. in Harrisville, Rhode Island.
Okay, Peter, how about you?
Peter M. Scotty, certified general appraiser, state of Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Connecticut. President of Peter M. Scotty and Associates.
Thanks, Peter. Don?
Yes, Donald J. Maderas, professional civil engineer, professional land surveyor, president and owner of Able Engineering Incorporated in Little Compton.
Thanks, Don. Ashley?
Hey, Ashley Sparks, architect, Dennis Talbert, Inc.
Okay. And finally, and most importantly, Rob and Mary?
Robert Mara
Mary Mara.
of Little Compton.
Terrific. You want to continue?
Yeah, so let me, if I first could, let me offer Peter and Scott and Don and Ashley to the board for any questions that you may have.
I had a question, if I may, Mark. Scott again, any CRMC jurisdiction here?
This is a very interesting situation, TAC. In 1994, this project was approved as an application to alter freshwater wetlands, or it was called a formal application back then, by the DEM. Today, since 1999, the freshwater wetlands in this location of Little Compton are under the jurisdiction of the CRMC. So it is actually under CRMC freshwater wetland jurisdiction right now. However, and I pointed this out in my report, because this is a permitted house, they are allowed under the CRMC exemptions for the freshwater wetlands. They're allowed to add one time only any additional impervious surface of 600 square feet or less as an exempt activity. So at 345 square feet, it has to be at least 25 feet away from the freshwater wetland when they do that. So at the current 345 square foot size, it would be exempt from additional permitting. In all likelihood, and I will get what's called a request for regulatory applicability from the CRMC just to confirm that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay. Mr. Petros, if you want to.
Mr. Chair, I just would like to ask Rob, because I know how important this is to Rob and Mary. And Rob, could you just, in your own words, briefly describe for the board what you're asking for and why you're asking for it?
Well, we've lived here 20 years. We're active in the community. We'd like to stay in our house. We're very active in gardening and civic duties and all that other stuff that we do. It's the best place that we've ever lived. And we just want to stay in our home. It's a modest home. It's not a huge castle or anything. It's comfortable and we like it. And this is our home, and we'd like to make it our home for the rest of our lives. And right now, we both have had some issues health-wise, and we're looking towards the future. We probably should have done this sooner than later, but now's the time for us to do it if we want to live out our lives in this home.
And Rob, if you're able to, if the board allows you to build this handicap accessible bathroom, will that make the first floor an adequate living area for you and Mary?
Yes, it makes the whole floor handicap accessible.
Thank you, Rob and Mary. And again, Mr. Chair, we welcome any questions the board may have for Rob and or Mary.
Heck.
Mr. Maher, any plans for the abutting lot to the north, 6-1?
No. Oh, right now, the land is currently used by Sweet and Salty Farm, and we intend to keep it that way.
Is it pasture land?
Yes, it's pasture, active pasture.
So if you move the line from lot 5 into lot 6, are you cutting lot 6 off from the, could look at the charts, but are you cutting lot 6 off from the Grange Avenue?
No, it's a 40-foot laneway, and we're annexing 12 feet of the
Okay.
40 feet. And the reason we're doing that is to give us the setback for the addition.
Mr. Maher, you said you're adding 12 feet, aren't you subtracting 12 feet from the 40-foot wide?
Yeah, we're taking it from 6 and adding it to 5.
But you're right, Tack. I think as Rob said, the current 40-foot strip would be reduced to 28 feet. We all agree on that.
And Jerry, I'm supportive of the petition, but I'm a little, as you know, side yard variances are fairly routinely granted in the right circumstances, and this seems to be the right circumstance. You have the southerly boundary of the house lot is a stone wall, and I've always felt stone walls make good neighbors. Why take the 12 feet away? And it just seems to be complicating the matter, or am I missing something?
No, Tack, actually, David and I had that exact conversation and we were of two minds on that. And so we were doing our best to try to make this the lightest lift possible for the zoning board, but I absolutely see your point, and a reasonable mind could say exactly what you said, is it might be better to leave the wall where it is and just get a variance for the 25-foot, setback here. So you make an excellent point. I could just tell you that the intention of Rob and Mary was try to make this as least complicated as they could, and we can, I think, all see your side of it. We had no desire to reduce the 40 to 28. There's no benefit there. And all things being equal, I suspect Rob and Mary will say they'd love to leave the stone wall where it is.
Right.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. I'll save mine for the discussion. I think we have received several, quite a lot relative. You have how many? 6 letters.
Hopefully you won't make me read them. I'm glad to indicate who the supporting neighbors are and perhaps the date of their letters, but every one of them is in support of the applicant's application.
Do we want to enter them into the record, or, not?
I think we should.
Okay.
I would ask for them, and I would mention, Tack, that in particular, the letter from Hillary Woodhouse from Stay at Home is I think an important letter, and one that sort of, I think, syncs well with the policies, the comprehensive plan, goals and policies that we were discussing today in terms of, the board having an opportunity to grant some gradual relief, minor relief, to allow, in this case, Rob and Mary to stay in their home and age in place.
So my suggestion, Mark, is, and with that would make it 7 letters, that I indicate the date and the writer of the letter, so that on the small chance that someone takes an appeal, at least they're part of the record. That sounds good, Mr. Petros? Gary?
Yes, please. Yeah,
that sounds good. And we entered them as one large exhibit.
You've got exhibits A and B. Why don't you just start with C, D, E, and F, et cetera?
Okay, if you wanted individually, or they could all be clustered under one, but
whatever Allison wishes.
Either way, it's fine. We could do C 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Okay, terrific. And we would do that. So,
okay,
back,
so
if you want to proceed.
The first letter is dated April 29, 2020, and that's from Hillary Woodhouse, who's treasurer and chairman of the board of directors of Stay at Home in Little Compton. The second letter is dated August 24th. It's from Clay Rockefeller, who lives across the street. The third letter is dated August 26th from Fred and Inez Yates, Y-E-A-T-T-S. Inez is I-N-E-S. The fourth letter is dated August 27, 2020. It's from a Charlie and Joanne Gregory, who live across the street in the Cornell house, the old Cornell house. The next letter, 2 letters. One is from Brent and Faye Moore. They live across the street. The next is from Peter Erickson, who bought the Compton property. That's dated September 1, 2020. Erickson is Erichsen. And lastly, the last letter is dated September 8th, and that's from Avila Moore Parker. Avila, Avila. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Are there any abutters or neighbors present who would like to speak?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, thank you, Carol.
And again, there's no one else. There are no one else here in the council chambers, other than Billy Ryan, who's sitting over my shoulder.
Oh, hi, Bill. If there's no more questions, then we would, I would invite discussion among the board and maybe a motion. Are there any more questions? I would like to just initiate a little discussion among the members, and Allison has I'm not sure if the taking of 25 feet or whatever it was from lot 6 has been done already. Is that maybe I should ask that. It has not been done. So I would wonder if we in this motion could make somehow that optional for them. Is that our business to do that? Allison?
Let me just be clear. You want to, if you were to vote to approve, you want to make it optional whether they have to take that, that 12
Yeah,
feet.
but they have to
from-
move that stone wall, which is really in there. I noticed today. It's like, it's not just a little stone wall. It's really, so I think it would save them a lot of trouble if they didn't have to move it. So could we give them the option in our motion? Or is that too far advanced?
Well, the only question is how it was noticed in the request that they made, whether notice would be adequate to change what they're requesting now.
Yeah, because there's a frontage issue on that lot.
Right.
Which now you are changing. And then we'd have to give another variance for side.
For side setback.
Yeah, so it might be better to just leave it alone.
I agree with Fred.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, someone have a motion?
I'll be glad to move to approve the variance.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second it. And once again, Fred, I'd ask that it's,
You want, I know that, yes, that's fine.
okay, so that would be both DEM, freshwater wetlands, and as Mr. Rabideau said, possibly a CRMC letter.
You're right.
Okay, then we should vote, and I'll poll the members. Mr. Berndorf,
Yes.
Mr. Case,
Yes.
Mr. Ryan, have you been here for the whole meeting?
No, I have been not. I came here at 7 o'clock.
Okay, so you've been here for the whole discussion of the Mara case?
That's correct.
Okay, then I would have you as a voting on this. How do you vote?
I'm going to abstain.
Going to abstain, okay. And Mr. Goulart?
Yes.
And then I would vote yes, so that gives you 5 yeses, and that's what you need to have this variance approved.
Actually, Mark, 4 yeses and 1 abstention.
That's what I meant to say.
Which
I'm
is
sorry, thank you.
sufficient.
So
Yes.
you need 4, and so you got 4. So
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's appreciated.
thank you for going through the process.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we would move now to the third petition. And that's the petition of Wilma Bruning and Lee Scott Chase. If the Secretary of TAC could read the public notice or the relevant parts of the public notice. Doing a lot of reading tonight, TAC.
I know. I brought something to drink, non-alcoholic. Petition of Wilma Bruning and Lee Scott Chase, Chase with an S, owners of the subject property located at 41 South Shore Road, Little Compton, tax assessors plat 32, lot 41, seeking a special use permit to operate a commercial kennel as provided for in the table of principal use regulations, parens reference C as in Charlie 24, and a parens. Applicants request to house no more than 15 dogs, parens excluding puppies under 16 weeks, and a parens.
Okay, thank you very much. And do we have a letter from the planning board on this matter?
Letter is dated September 2nd, 2020. It is addressed to you, Mark. The relevant section reads, Mr. Cady made a motion, seconded by Mr. Marinowski, to send a letter to the zoning board stating that based on the comprehensive plan, kennels are allowed, but we have some concerns as to the effect on the neighborhood, and that the number of dogs may be larger than would be acceptable to the neighbors. Voting in approval were Mr. Steers, Mr. Cady, Ms. Woodhouse, Ms. Sattel, Mr. Marinowski, Mr. Murphy, and Mr. Ross. Opposed, none. Sincerely, Edith Marion, Clerk.
Okay, thank you very much. And who is here to speak for the Brunings and Mr. Lee, I think? Wilma, Ms. Bruning, you need to unmute yourself in the left-hand corner. It says mute, you need to press that.
Wilma, you're still muted.
Unmute. Here we go.
There
Good.
you go.
Mr. Chair, do you want to swear in Ms. Bruning? Sworn in?
Yes, I guess, if you would recommend it. So,
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
State your full name for the record.
Wilma Claire Bruning.
Thank you.
and do we want to swear in Mr. Chase? Is he also going to be speaking?
My name is Lee Scott Chase.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thanks a lot. If you could proceed.
Okay. I've applied for a kennel license for 41 South Shore Road. I have always had German Shepherds here, and I currently have Shepherds. I've been urged by the building inspector to apply for this. My dogs are all housed inside my house. We do have some runs outside, and they are sometimes in those runs. We have large fenced areas for them also. They are not outside when we're not home. They come inside, and they have various places in the house where they live. We're totally fenced. There's nothing, these dogs are pets. There is nothing for anyone to be afraid of with them. Quite a few of them that I have bred are therapy dogs. Some are service dogs. My dogs here are, like I say, there are personal pets. Some are obedience titled. Some are canine good citizen. We do training with them. And I guess I'm open to questions.
So you're seeking a license because you're breeding these dogs.
I do some breeding, yes.
About how many dogs would you like breed and sell per year?
Well, this year I have had a litter of 3 born in May, and I have a litter of 6 that were born on July 20th. They are going home this week, next week, and the week after. So I've had 2 litters, 9 puppies total in 2020. I am hoping for a 3rd litter, but you can never count them till they're on the ground.
Okay. And how many dogs do you now have that are 1 year or older that are not puppies?
1 year or older, we have 9 dogs here.
Okay,
Some of them are elderly dogs. Not that, I'm just saying that those are not, my breakdown with the breeding is, it's in here. I have 4 over 6 years old. I have 4 technically breeding age and 3 under breeding age. I don't breed until they're 2 years old at the minimum or 2.5.
okay. And if you were to receive a special use permit, would you increase the number of dogs that you have?
No,
No?
I am definitely at my maximum.
Okay.
But now, on the other hand, if we didn't give you a special use, what would you do?
I'm allowed to have there's nothing on I've been told year after year at the town hall that I am allowed to have as many dogs as I would like, that there is no limit on the amount of dogs you can own in Little Compton.
I think that's
And
true. I don't, but the zoning specifically talks about breeding, and they. if you
Right, well,
breed
the
it-
breeding, I mean, I do, some years, I've had a year where I had 1 litter. I've had a year where I did have 4 litters. That was a lot. That was my maximum year. That was 3 years ago. And that was actually, I had some females come up empty the year before and I hadn't had puppies. So I bred 4 females hoping to get 2 litters and I got 4 litters. You know, it's not an exact science. It's, you know, sometimes they get pregnant, sometimes they don't. We have had an AKC inspection here, and that was because of the 4 litters, because I increased my my amount of puppies. The AKC did an inspection here, and I submitted that in the paperwork. We passed with flying colors. You know, this is not a these are some really good dogs. Some of our dogs are imported from Germany. I have 3 German imports here. We breed 2 imported dogs. I don't keep a male dog here. I breed out to a better dog than I could own. You know,
So if you don't get the special use permit, you'll still have all your dogs. Is that what
I
you're
will,
saying?
yes.
It kind of puts us in a spot, doesn't it?
Well, I don't know. One thing that is the benefit for me for a special use permit would be if I had a kennel license, I could then apply to the state of Rhode Island for a breeder's license, and that would open me to state inspections, and that's fine. I will show anyone anything here at any time. These dogs are well kept, they're well fed, they're vetted. I take excellent care of them. People see me walking them. They know I've got quite a few of my puppies that I've produced are here in town, and they're all wonderful dogs. These are a West German show line. They have been bred for 100 years to be excellent family pets.
I agree with all that.
Excuse me?
I certainly agree with what you're saying. There's no, I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong.
I
I'm just
know, it's
saying-
just there. I think I'm defensive because there've been a lot of attacks because of this on Facebook and so on. So I'm a little bit defensive about names I've been called and so on. That's all. That's, I think, where I'm coming from. I just didn't expect that.
Back.
And so, I mean, I don't think that the special use permit, for years, I have asked at the town hall, can I apply for a kennel permit? I've been told I do not need it. The town hall knows I'm breeding. You know, everyone there, I've talked to people there, and they said I didn't need anything. And now the new building official, who's a very nice man who has seen everything here. I took him in to see puppies. I've taken him all around. He knows none of my other buildings are being used for dogs. The dogs all do live inside the house. He saw my whelping area where the pups are kept until they can go outside during the day. And now he's urging me to do this. I mean, I don't want to, I have a letter here an email telling me I'm going to be in violation if I don't do it. That's why I'm doing this. I would just as soon leave the status quo, except that if I did have the kennel license, I would be able to get the breeder's license, which then again opens me to more scrutiny. You know, it's most people, backyard breeders don't want the state coming in. I'm fine about the state coming in. The health department is well aware that I have these animals here. They're fine about it. You know, everything. I know some of my neighbors have been upset in the past about the noise. I think we've got the noise under control pretty much. I mean, I'm sure we'll hear from some people. I wish they would call me. In 2019, we had 6 noise complaints. 1 in February, 1 in June, 2 in September, 1 in October, and 1 in December. They were all during the day. None of them, our dogs are not outside. I say before 7 in the morning. Once in a while, we're out 6:45 because I've got dogs inside that are dying to get out, you know, and they might bark, you know, 1 bark, 2 barks. One of them might, and that's, we know which one that is. And I am aware of 1 complaint that was filed in June of 2020. So those other ones were in 2019. We have had 1 complaint in 2020 for noise. You know, I don't know. Nothing is really going to change either way, I don't think. But the building inspector would like me to have a kennel license. I don't know if he's on tonight. Is he on? Peter Medeiros?
No.
No, okay, because he's the one urging me to do this. I would have just, you know, like I said to the planning board, I'm already in my 60s. You know, this is my hobby. I've been doing it here. I've had shepherds here for over 20 years. And, you know, as I'm getting older, obviously, I'm not going to, I maxed out quite a few years ago. I did have 15 dogs here. That's why I put that number on. I'm like, geez, what number am I going to pick? Well, 15, because that's the most I ever had. I have 11 right now. 2 are aging out. A couple more to follow. You know, they don't live forever. And I'm bringing along some young ones for breeding. And showing, you know, I usually show and trial with these dogs. There's nothing going on this year. And it is my hobby. It's a big hobby. You know, I don't know what else to say about, you know, if my neighbors are upset, I'm a published phone number. They can get my, you know, my phone number for my business. If my dogs are bothering them, they should call me. You know, we try, like I say, to keep barking to a minimum.
How do you do that? You say you're
Well,
trying
we
to control them.
usually put them out in groups, and they're pretty good when they're in groups. We don't really use the individual kennels very often, sometimes to feed them, or if we need to separate a dog or 2. They wear bark collars, which work very well. It's a little electric collar, and it gives them 5 barks, and on the 6th bark, they get a shock. It gives them 5 tones and then a shock. I hate the bark collars, but I use them. They do learn. They're smart dogs. They know if they've got bark collars on, they'll rub them on the fence and they'll turn them away from their voice box. You know, I brought one in tonight and that's what she had done. She had it all the way up the side of her head. And but she wasn't out there barking. You know, they know when they're wearing them. You know, one of the complaints one day was there was a dog barking and her bark collar, the battery had died. you know, so I put a different collar on her and the police were satisfied. So, but most of the time we are here and we get them in right away. There's not continuous barking. Like I hear dogs in the neighborhood, they're out for sometimes an hour or 2 hours and they bark continuously. They're not close to me, but I'm just saying, and my dogs are unaffected by that. They never bark back at them. But our dogs will bark and we get out and get our dogs right in. You know, if we're in the house and there's barking, we are on them. We move them around. Usually when we do get barking, it's when we are moving dogs and they get, I don't know how many of you are dog people, but dogs like to, it's called fence fighting. And if they have the opportunity to put themselves on the other side of a fence through an open gate, like if 3 of them are out there playing and they go, oh, we can sneak through here and put ourselves on the other side of the fence, they will sound really bad. It's a huge game. And so we get them in as fast as we can. I mean, you can watch it on YouTube. Dogs do it. That's what dogs do. And so it is intense for the few minutes it's happening. I don't know. I mean, it's,
The coyotes make them bark.
the coyotes, sometimes they bark at the coyotes, yeah, at night. But we only get them in and out at night. They're never out after dark. We get them out, of course, 1 or 2 or 3 at a time, and we're out with them. But if the coyotes are howling up, they might bark a little bit and we get them right back inside. You know, it's not like we have a building or a row of unattended dogs. You know, sometimes, I mean, I've had, if someone walks by with a dog and there are dogs out front, they might bark for a couple minutes. We had, you know, a next door neighbor who used to walk his little Chihuahua up my driveway, and that would get the dogs going. He's no longer living there, and that's a good thing for me, because I called the police a couple times to say, you know, I'd been out to talk to him and he would still walk up my driveway. And I've got dogs outside on the other, you know, across the yard going berserk. And they said I had to do a restraining order. Well, I'm not going to do a restraining order on my next door neighbor to keep his Chihuahua off my property. You know, it's just, it goes, you know, dogs do bark, I guess is what I'm saying.
Tack, did you have a question?
If I may, Ms. Bruning, your application indicates you've been raising and breeding German Shepherds since 2004, 16 years.
Yes.
And in the course of a year, you've indicated in 2019, there were 6 complaints. On average, in the course of a year, how many complaints are there from neighbors or the police coming by?
Those are all of them.
So
And
you mentioned 1 in 2020 and 6
1 in 2020.
and 6 in 2019.
Yes, and the 5 of the 6 were one neighbor who's quite a ways down the road who was not in a butter.
Has anyone ever been bitten by one of your dogs?
One time when I had a rescue dog here, I believe it was before 2004, I used to have rescue shepherds that I would bring in. I would adopt the older ones or damaged ones. And we did have a bite here. What year do you think that was?
2009.
It was that was in 2009, and that was a rescue dog.
Do you have liability insurance?
Yes.
And other than shock collars or bark collars, as you call them, how can one keep a dog from barking?
Well, we yell at them. We bring them inside. We have planted so many evergreens around this property. I've tried to muffle. We recently built a shop for Scott, my husband. He had a nice building built, and we positioned that building not really where we wanted it, but where we thought it would lessen any noise from here to our neighbors. We put it on the, what side is that? South side? Yeah. On the south side, we felt like it's a tall building. We purposely did a 2-story building so that we thought it would help block sound from our home, just living, because we're outdoors people. We're outside all the time. Our house is just kind of where we base, and we're out in our yard, and we just thought that would be a good thing to do. So we did that. I would have much rather had a nice freestanding building, but we put it along the edge and attached it to another small chicken area workshop we had.
Can I assume,
Yes,
can I assume that you sell the puppies?
yes,
And I'm sure you've read the definition of a kennel in the zoning ordinance.
yes.
So back to Mr. Buhrendorf's statement, if your petition were not granted, then what would you do with the puppies?
Well, I can, as a hobby breeder, continue to breed puppies. It's not like I breed a litter every month or I'm considered a hobby breeder. I'm not really, if I am selling puppies, but it cost me a lot to produce a litter. I did this litter of 6 that I have in the yard right now that is starting to go home. I did their vet costs because I do pre-breeding veterinary. I do prenatal before they're born. I do all follow-ups. They get full physicals. I do most of my vetting up at Slade Veterinary, which is in Framingham, who's one of the best.
When you say the puppies go home, what does that mean? They go to a new home?
They go to a new home, yes.
And part of the definition of a kennel is, quote, engages in the breeding of dogs for sale. And
yes.
So, Allison, what's your thought on if it were a negative outcome here for the applicant, what she could do with those puppies?
Well, she technically, if she sold the puppies, she'd technically be in violation of the ordinance. If she sold the ones that she had, yeah.
What makes this more complicated is this is a residential area, and there's already a business being conducted in addition to the kennel on this property. Makes it really kind of difficult to tie down what should be done here.
Can you elaborate, Ms. Bruning, about the other business or businesses?
Okay, well, I run Sakonnet events out of a building behind the house, and that is a commercial kitchen. It's been there for 20 years. And it is, I operate Sakonnet, Wilhelmina's Catering out of it. And we also run the little bakery at Walker's, and we feed that bakery. That's our little bakery, and we make the food here and we take it up there. And so as I've gotten older, I have been cutting way, way, way back on my catering, like to the point where now with COVID, we've done a few takeout dinner parties. I think we did 5 takeout dinner parties this summer for 15 people. And we just did do a larger event, our first and only catered event that we're going to do because it was uncomfortable for me with COVID. I thought I had a better agreement about mask wearing of the guests and so on, and that won't be happening again. So the catering is technically done. I can't imagine in 2 years from now when I'm 64 years old saying, gee, I think I'll start to cater weddings again. It's not going to happen. I do need to keep that licensing because of the bakery, and I would like to keep the bakery. Our impact is much lower right now. The only sales I've had virtually are the bakery this year. I do employ quite a few local people as on a seasonal basis. And so that is my plan, is to gear that. I'm heading towards retirement. I'm gearing everything down.
So is Seconded Events, is that a customary home occupation? Is it a business you could sell and could be run out of the premises?
No, I could not sell that business. No, I mean, I believe that my licensing is that if I sold my whole home and moved out of here and another caterer was trying to cater in Little Compton and bought my house and kitchen, they could probably do it. I don't know. I don't know that the state would license them.
And did you, when you originally started your Seconded Events or Wilmer's Catering, did you get any zoning board approval from the town in any way, shape, or form?
20 years ago, I did not have to do that.
Well, according to the zoning rules, it's not allowed at all in residential areas.
Okay.
So
So,
that's just a fact.
okay. I mean, it's operating here. It's been operating. It's gearing down. I'm trying to figure out what my next use for the building will be if I stop catering and stop doing the bakery. You know, I don't know. It's a nice building. It has a kitchen and a bathroom. You know, what will I turn it into? I have no idea.
My last question, Ms. Bruning, I think you said you had 9 adult dogs at present.
Yes.
As you try to lighten your load, take your pack off as you get older, what is a minimum number of dogs you could live with?
Well, I would like to have the ability to have 10 dogs here so that my dogs can age out here. I do occasionally find a home for a female that's older, and then I send her to that home. I still support her veterinary bills, and I still support, in a few cases, her food. But she does get to go live with another family. I've done that a few times.
Do you always want to breed dogs?
I have always wanted to breed dogs, and I would always love to breed dogs. It is something I have always wanted to do. And I've been, I think I'm good at it. I think my dogs are very nice animals. I'm very selective with what I do. And, you know, 3 litters a year is not a lot of puppies. I've had 2 puppies before. You know, a litter can be anywhere from one puppy is actually not considered a litter. It's considered a singleton. 2 puppies. I've had 2 puppies a few times. I've had 3 puppies multiple times. Our litters are not giant litters. The largest litter I have had was 11, and I have had 11 puppies twice, and they all survived.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have, Mark.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions here? Anyone else have any questions? I would note then, are there any abutters present or any neighbors present who wish to speak?
There are several abutters, I assume abutters in attendance, one with their hand up.
Okay, before we get there, I would like to note that we've received several letters again.
I'm aware of 2 letters.
Tack, do you have a number?
We have 3 letters, and 1 letter is both jointly a letter and a petition.
Yeah, we have a petition.
Okay, I have not seen that one, and I'm curious why. Because I've been in touch with the town hall to find out about this, so I knew what, I don't need to see the petition names, but I'm curious what the petition says. And I was not supplied copies of those. I have 2 letters, one from Chad Valcourt, and one from Lima's next door, Deborah Lima. Those are the only two I've been supplied with.
We have letters, Mark, from Dan Murphy that's dated August 31, 2020. We have a letter from Deborah Lima dated September 2, 2020. Ms. Bruning mentions another letter I'm not familiar with. And we have the letter/petition from Henry and Mary LaFerriere that was received at the town hall on September 14th, 2 days ago.
I have asked for all this and I have not received it.
Should we read the petition? And I would note, it looks to me about like there's 43 signatures here roughly.
I understand there's only 7 abutters, however.
All right, so I don't have a
I
comparison.
think that's part of the Facebook slashing of me. That's why they would get so many signatures. It's been very active.
It looks like most of them are South Shore Road, or in that general area.
Across the street in Plymouth Land Grant, Eastview Drive area.
Our
Yes, I believe
secretary checked the names out and she came up with a number 7.
With
out of
what?
all of those there.
I'm sorry, Fred, could you repeat that? I just didn't hear it.
I said our secretary checked out the lists that
Yep.
were on that petition, and she found only 7 that were actually abutters.
Okay.
And the rest of them may be in the neighborhood. They're not abutters.
And our secretary being Edie Marion, correct?
Yes, just
Okay.
Just for the record. Yep.
for the record here.
So what's your pleasure, Mark? Do you want me to read anything, capitalize it, or just enter them in? I think they should be made part of
Well,
the.
I'd like to see a copy at some point. I think that that's unfair that I was not supplied with one of the letters or the petition when I've asked for them. I specifically asked because I knew there was a petition.
I didn't see it till today, but I must have missed it. Jack, I would do the same that we did before. I think you should just read the names of the letters, people sending the letters. And so we can enter them as exhibits. And then I guess we enter the petition as a separate exhibit.
So the first letter is dated August 31, 2020. It was addressed to Peter Medeiros, the building official, who forwarded on to Edie Marion, our secretary. It's from a Daniel Murphy, who resides at 29 Eastview Drive. The second letter is dated September 2nd, 2020, from a Deborah Lima, who resides at 37 South Shore Road. And that is addressed to, not specific, this letter is in response of Wilma Bruning and Lee Scott Chase to operate a commercial kennel. Goes on from there. The third letter is dated September 12, 2020. That is from, as I said earlier, Mary Jane and Henry LaFerriere. It includes several photographs, aerial photographs and otherwise, and also includes a petition.
I have not seen any of that.
I understand. The petition has, as Fred Buendorf indicated, as many as over 30 signatures. It reads, I'll just read the top section of the petition. We, the undersigned citizens of Little Compton, Rhode Island, and homeowners in the neighboring area request the petition to have a commercial kennel at 41 South Shore Road, Little Compton, Rhode Island, be denied by the Little Compton Zoning Board. Other than the property in question, we are a residential neighborhood and wish to keep it that way. The noise made by the existing dogs and the commercial trucks is already a detriment to the neighborhood and our property values, as well as a direct cause of loss of enjoyment in our homes and yards.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I don't know if you want, I can share my screen to show Ms. Bruning the petition on the screen.
Okay, if we should do that probably so she's aware. And then we need to, I think, then ask the abutters who are present if they have anything to say. So,
Actually, you know what? That feature might be disabled on this.
I will allow you to be a co-host, Allison, and that should allow you to share.
I'm not sure I'll be able to read it or see it because I'm on an iPad, but I can try.
You see that now?
I can see it. It's small. Okay.
That's the letter Mr. Eddie read, but this is the attached petition here.
Well, I can't, it's scrolling. I can't read it. It's not staying still. And it's not, I mean, I need to see a copy of that and read it. I mean, how can I rebut something that I haven't even seen? I don't know why it wasn't sent to me. I received the letter from the Limas from September 2, and I received the letter from Chad Valcourt, which is September 10. But since then, I have not received anything, and I have asked.
I do apologize. I did not realize that the secretary to the board had not sent that last one to you.
Well, it's a letter and then this petition, because there's another letter from Murphy, August 31, I never saw.
That came in as an email to the building official, and neither of those did I have, so I'm sorry that it didn't get.
And I have not seen the letter from Mr. Valcourt. I don't know about the other board members.
okay. Would it be appropriate now, I think, to hear from the abutters who are present in the chamber? If you could come forward, identify yourself and give your address, and then state what you want to say.
Can I just inquire what you're marking as exhibits, just so I know what's being marked and what you're calling it? I know just if you can just say the letters of exhibit such and such, the petitions, what?
So the letter of Daniel Murphy was dated August 31st. That was the one to Peter Madeira, it's an email. That would be presumably exhibit A. The letter dated September 2nd from Deborah Lima, presumably would be exhibit B. I don't have a copy of the letter from Mr. Valcourt. Does any other board member have a copy of that letter?
Not that I'm aware of.
That was dated, according to Ms. Bruning, September 10th. And lastly is the letter / petition of Mary Jane and Henry LaFerriere. And that was dated September 12th, received by the town on September 14th.
Are you calling it a separate number?
I beg your pardon, Nancy?
Are you calling that as a separate exhibit or part of the letter?
That we'll call, that's Allison's call. To me, it can be one exhibit C.
I think it, yeah, one exhibit came from the same person.
And again, I don't think any of us have seen the letter of Mr. Valcourt, so I don't know how you want to.
Came to us in an email. It was emailed to us. Hang on.
Okay.
I got it also a couple of days ago.
Yeah, the 11th.
I think we should include the petition, maybe for a second time, but as a separate exhibit, because that's very unusual to.
That's fine too. Yeah, either way.
So then if the board has seen the letter of Chad Valcourt, Nancy, why don't we make Daniel Murphy A, Deborah Lima B, Chad Valcourt C, the letter of Henry and Mary Jane LaFerriere D, and the petition that accompany that letter E.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we should hear from people in the audience who are abutters on this matter. And I guess they're at town hall, so if they could identify themselves and come forward.
Well, they're signed in by Zoom. The first one that raised their hand that I unmuted earlier, tag is HKSTUEY. You may speak.
That's me. My name is Stuart Morgan. I live at 50 South Shore Road, so I'm technically in a butter, I guess, although I'm across the street. I have two questions to start with. It's my understanding from the lawyer that she's actually in violation already with two things, right? With her original business and then with the dog breeding operation. Is that correct?
I haven't made any opinion that she's actually in violation. What I stated was that
She said technically she's in violation.
if
And
she were
then
to
I believe
sell
Mr.
her
Berendorf said she's in violation with the original business
Break
too.
it
Is
down
that
to
correct?
people speaking on top of each other.
Right. Allison?
I just want to be clear for the record. I do not know that if she's in violation regarding her catering business. I'm making no opinion to that right now. With regards to the kennel, if she were to sell her puppies, she would be in violation of the ordinance.
Okay, she's already done that.
Just having them there is not a violation.
But she admitted to selling the puppies already, did she not?
Okay, well. Do you have other?
That's a yes or no question.
I'm not going to testify on behalf of the petitioner. I think you heard what you heard, and
Okay, then she should probably hire a lawyer, I guess, so.
Okay.
Okay, I am in a butter and I have put up with some of the noise. I will say it's been better lately, but I assume that's because she's trying to get this license now. So I live, like I said, I live across the street and one lot over, and the dogs do bark quite a bit sometimes, but I said it has been better lately. That's all I have to say. I'm also a dog owner, so I'm not anti-dog. I had nothing to do with that Facebook page she's talking about. This is the only time I've ever spoken up, and I did sign the petition. So, and obviously I'm against you granting her that license. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Any other abutters who wish to speak?
Well, there's a Lorraine Della Porta who's had her hand up.
Hi, good evening. My name is Lorraine Della Porter, and I'm here with my husband, Richard Damon. And we live at 44 South Shore Road, which is directly across the street. So I think we're considered abutters. I want to just say we are also not part of the Facebook page and have never met or spoken to our neighbors across the street. But we have been deeply impacted over the years by the barking dogs. It's often incessant barking. There have been times where we've had family and our grandchildren over and they've been scared to death because it sounds like the dogs are killing each other. We are concerned not only about noise, but we're also wondering about waste disposal. With that number of dogs, I think we'd like to understand better what happens with the waste from the dogs. We have wells, as you all know. We did a little bit of research because we weren't familiar with our neighbors, and it looks like the dogs are advertised for sale all over the internet. So it seems like it's a business that's been operating for quite a while, where there's puppies for sale on a regular basis. So we're quite concerned about all of those things. Want to add anything?
Yeah, and the other thing, we talked about, was raised about the bakery and whatnot. We have, I don't know if anybody ever comes down that South Shore Road, but there's 40-foot tractor trailers coming down the road to deliver her bakery items. Cisco, it's a 40-footer. We hear them backing up, going down their driveway. So I think minimizing that the bakery is going up, going slower. You haven't been on South Shore Road and seen the 40-foot tractor trailers delivering her, items.
Yeah, so we're already concerned about noise and traffic and everything else. And we certainly don't want anything else contributing to what's already becoming a less than quiet and peaceful place that it used to be.
Yeah.
So we are vehemently against this, and we are also dog lovers, for the record.
Yes.
So thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Any other abutters who'd like to speak? Anyone else?
Yes. Mr. Chad Valcourt?
Mr. Valcourt?
Hi, good evening. Chad Valcourt. I own 32 South Shore Road. My wife and I, Lori, have lived there since from 2004 to 2019. We recently moved. And I will say this, nothing bad to say about Wilma or Scott. They're great neighbors, okay? I think my only real question to the board is what happens if the license is granted for the commercial kennel? If it does get granted now or later, and there's noise issues, which from what I'm hearing in this, there obviously are, okay? I've never made a complaint or anything like that. But what happens is, do the police say, well, there's a commercial kennel, there's nothing we can do? I guess that's my question to you. And I guess for the record, I'm not part of that Facebook page or did not get any of the petition myself either, but I did send that letter. So that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you very much. Are there any other abutters who wish to speak?
Mark, just one question. Is Mr. Valcourt, sir, do you still own the property across the street? You mentioned you moved.
I do.
You do own the property?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
There's a C. Wentworth.
C. Wentworth?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hi. Yeah, my name is Cindy Wentworth and my husband is Dan Murphy. We live on 29 Eastview Drive. We are not part of the Facebook group either. We did sign the petition. We do hear the dogs barking. We're outside people. We're runners, we're walkers. We have a hot tub in our backyard. In the evening, we do hear them barking. We're not opposed to the current dogs. Our concern is we don't want any more in the neighborhood. We don't want a commercial kennel in this residential area. We're just really concerned about more noise, more traffic, et cetera. So again, I concur with the other statements and I am opposed to granting this license for a commercial kennel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who is budding who'd like to speak?
There is one more hand that is.
Unfortunately, this zoning board meeting is continuing, so I'll call you back as soon as it's. Okay.
There is one more hand that's up from someone that's known as Chromebook 7072.
Chromebook 70, could you identify yourself and give your address? Chromebooks.
Are you able to unmute the person who is known as Chromebook 7072? It doesn't look like they can. There's one more hand up from a Sue.
Okay, Carol.
Hi.
Carol, I'm sorry, I had a,
Oh, okay. Could you identify yourself for the record, please?
yes, Henry and Mary Jane LaFerriere. We are abutters at 47 South Shore Road. And we are not part of any Facebook attack group either. I want to make that clear. I don't know what that's all about, but anyway, we did write the letter and we did make an effort to get signatures from not just the abutters, but everybody who felt they were impacted. And I think that's important. That I'm glad to see that there are people who are impacted by this. First, one of Wilma's first statements, she's always had dogs here. I lived here for 30 years before she got here. Never heard a dog bark in all those years. So she was the relatively new influence in terms of dogs. I'll just say for the record that, you know, if you look at the aerial photo, one in particular talks about the density of the housing in our area. We're built in sort of like an amphitheater. We're at the top of the hill, and this curves around and goes downhill toward Plymouth Land Grant, and the sound carries tremendously. in addition to many additional buildings that have been added where the echoes occur as well. So there's no doubt that these people are being affected. We had nobody refuse to sign the petition, although I broke my neck and I haven't been able to go around. My wife's been sick, but we did as much as we could in the time we had available. And I want to say that, you know, dogs do bark. Wilma's right, they bark, and there's no stopping them when they want to bark. I've heard the coyotes in the middle of the night singing with the dogs and barking all wee hours. In the mornings, it's as early as 6 o'clock or 6:15, and all day long. We walk outside on the deck and we hear the dogs bark, and we have conversations with neighbors who are very upset about the volume. These dogs are not little dogs. These are German Shepherds. They have deep voices, and when they bark, you know it. And there are several that have a little squeakier voices. I assume this must be the puppies, and they go on and on, yelping like children sometimes. So clearly, you know, we have concerns as well. I mean, we've made complaints and not tried to involve the police every single time. Wilma knows. She's heard us yelling over the fence. I will say that you know, we've had conversations outside of the home as well, outside of our yard with them about dog barking and noise. We have concerns also about where does the dog excrement go. I've never seen a truck come to remove dog poops from anywhere over there, but we smell when they're being buried in the ground. And we have concerns how a well exists within the middle of our 2-acre lot. And I know that between the catering business using water and dogs and all the rest, and chickens, which are right next to our boundary line, and chicken waste as well, and dogs, which are all over the yard. I don't know what to expect in the long run for the status of the water supply. But this is not the neighborhood I moved into. It is loud. We've had complaints about trucks backing up that driveway with the beepers on all hours of the morning and afternoon. The number of deliveries indicate to me that I don't see the catering business winding down a whole lot. Trucks this week, even 2 or 3 times. Plus the deliveries from the bakery going out to Walkers and wherever else she delivers them to. You know, she got this business going just by having dogs and more dogs and more dogs. And now she's looking for the town to give her permission to do something that has been a thorn in our side for 20 years. She started with one small puppy who died in a fire, in a mobile home fire she had here. And then since then, it's been more dogs, and then the catering business and more noise. And the neighbors are upset. This is not the little Compton I bought into. I deserve consideration. That comprehensive plan was an effort that I joined many years in helping create. And I believe that what it states is true, that there should be any business of that sort has to be approved and should not affect the quality of life that we all hope to continue to experience as we did previously. So I don't know what to say about her business that exists without permission. And I wonder who would monitor what she does beyond this. They don't seem to have been monitored. There are setback issues in a housing density, 1/3 acre average lots, all down the street and across the amphitheater, if you will, that people complain about those dogs. You know, we're getting old. We have our own illnesses to contend with. You know, the last thing I ever hoped to do was to sell this property. But the more I hear those dogs barking on a daily basis, the more I wonder how I could put that element together. I would rather live where I chose to live in peace and harmony.
She can also do Part A if she chooses.
You know,
Give her that permit
Yeah, the other thing that I'm concerned with is if she gets this commercial operation application approved, you know, she may or may not continue to breed dogs in larger numbers. I mean, where does it say in the ordinance that there's a specific number? It doesn't say that. She already has at least 7 or she said 9, and puppies up to as many as 11. And then the other thing is that this kennel, if it's approved, allows her to board other people's dogs as well. So that adds a whole nother element to it. That's what it says in the ordinance. So in any case, I think cease and desist is better than approval, but I'll leave it up to the board. I mean, I think there are issues around building too close, not having setbacks, not having screening, not keeping the noise down, that have changed this neighborhood considerably. I appreciate the board's attention to our request to reject.
Thank you. Tack, you have a point?
Well, Henry raises an issue I'll just put on the table, Henry. You talk about monitoring the situation, and we heard earlier that she could have as many dogs as she wanted under current ordinances in the town. And if we grant a special use permit, we have the right to have restrictions, i.e. that there will only be, for the sake of discussion, 10 dogs, things like that. So my question is, if the board hears your concerns and denies the petition, then Ms. Bruning and her husband can have 20 dogs, and they can have litters, they just can't sell them. And then it becomes a monitoring issue, I suppose, whether they're sold on the internet or whatnot, and people complain to the building official. So I'm really not sure what the proper course of action is for the neighborhood. The board members are sympathetic to people wanting to live in a peaceful environment. But we are a rural town, and unfortunately this, at least across the street, is not a rural area. So what are your thoughts on that?
Are you asking me, Tech?
I am.
Well, I think you're spot on for the concern. I don't know what the letter of the law is, but I mean, I could live with the 3 or 4 or 5 dogs that Wilma claims to own for her own purposes. But beyond that, I don't know what the legal ramifications are for her going over that number or
See, that's something in granting a special use permit, we could limit her to a certain number of dogs. Whereas if we did not grant the request for a special use permit, she could have 25 dogs. She just could not sell the puppies.
Right. And yeah, I got that.
You could also limit.
Certainly the more dogs, the more dogs that disappear from the lot, the better it is for the neighborhood. I mean, we're all complaining about the noise and the barking and all the rest of it, plus the catering stuff.
Well, it's a double-edged sword is what I'm trying to relay to you. And also in granting a special use permit, we could say that there's no boarding, and think, as you astutely noted earlier, that's part of the definition of the kennel.
Limit the number.
Yeah, if she can't sell the puppies, then what happens? I mean, you can't keep her from breeding the dogs, apparently.
Correct.
So you're saying it's either more puppies or
Give her a license.
or give her the license. I'm not.
Ms. Bruni, you wish to weigh in?
Me? I'm sorry. Well, I have no intentions of ever boarding dogs here or doing anything about housing dogs outside of my home. And I would be, right now I have 11 dogs. I do have one elderly, she's not really elderly, but she's getting up there. I mean, a limit of 10 dogs would be doable for me.
You
Chances
generally
that would,
said 9, but maybe you weren't including puppies. I don't know.
right, well, puppies are here for a very short period. 9 dogs, I have 2 puppies, and then there are 9 adult dogs. The puppies that I'm referring to as 2 puppies are young dogs that I kept 2 out of a litter to decide ultimately which one I would keep. I will probably sell one at a year old. And the little puppies are here for 8 or 9 or 10 weeks, depending on their situation they're going into. I also do not sell puppies on the internet. I don't remember who said that, but I do have a Facebook page. And if you Google me with dogs, you will find out that yes, I title dogs, I show dogs, that's the stuff that comes up. I do not have a website. Most of my puppies are sold word of mouth. I do not ship puppies. If a person can't come here and meet me 3 or 4 times to take one of my puppies home, they don't get one. And so I'm not sure quite what question I was answering. As far as boarding dogs, I have never boarded dogs here. I have occasionally brought in a rescue dog over the years. I will bring in a rescue dog and try and rehome it after working with it for a few weeks. I don't do that very much because it increases the barking.
Well, I assume that generally, I used to tell clients, the more people, the more problems, the more dogs, presumably the more barking. You've indicated that you could live with 10. 10 and no boarding. I don't know, Henry, if that would be helpful to the neighborhood. Because again, if the petition is denied, Wilma has the legal right now to have 20 dogs. She just can't sell the puppies.
Legally.
Will she be replacing dogs as they age or die, or is this a perpetual 10 dogs?
10 is the max. Presumably, that does not include puppies less than, I think, in the petition.
It's 16 weeks.
15.
Puppies less than 16 weeks. I will say I'm in my 60s and I don't see having more dogs than I have right now. That's for sure. I would like the leeway for 10 to let these dogs, a few of them age out, and I may or may not replace them. I would like to have the number be at 10. Occasionally, over the years, I've had someone who couldn't keep a dog they have gotten from me, and they return that dog to me. If they've gotten a puppy and their circumstances changed, either through illness or one person lost their home, that dog comes back here and I work with the dog for a number of months and then I rehome it. I can't just turn over a dog. I have to work with it and make sure I know all about it before I can get it a new home. And that has happened 4 times. So I need the leeway that if someone calls me up tomorrow and says, I can't keep my dog, I just got evicted, I just lost my home, I can't find a rental, I have to be able to take that dog back. It cannot go to a shelter. And that is part of being a responsible breeder.
And Ms. Bruning, how about if you have 9 dogs now, older dogs?
Yeah.
Although we're aging gracefully, we're all aging. Looking into the crystal ball, how about if you agree to let them age in place and then you limited yourself, let's say, to 6? When those existing ones have moved on, gone to doggy heaven, whatever, and you, but we allow a stipulation or a condition saying that if a dog is returned to you, you're allowed to go above the 6 after those 3 or 4 have passed on.
Otherwise, I'm going to be in my 80s before I get any peace or quiet in this neighborhood.
Well,
I wish you had called me, Hank. You know, I've been open. I sent a note home with your granddaughters. Your granddaughters used to come over and play here all the time.
The issue
Always
is, the
with my
issue is about
puppies
what to
and
do.
my
And
dogs.
I would have no, I would agree with the number waning over time, not just keep adding or replenishing. I mean, I'm going to be in my 80s in 7 years, and I'd like to get at least a few years of peace and quiet back. And it just isn't happening. Like dogs bark, as you said. So, it's a choice. But if we went with Tack's suggestion, I wouldn't have an objection.
So over the next, I'm trying to think of my ages off the top of my head of the dogs. I mean, I have dogs here that might live 5 years. Some of my older ones, they're 7 and 8 years old. They could live 5 years. So I would like 5 years. I would like 8 as a better number. I think 8 is more reasonable than 6 because
It's not more reasonable for noise though, Wilma. And that's the point. So,
well,
and Wilma, we're not, in my proposal, I'm not seeking to set a time frame. I'm just saying the existing 9 dogs, as they age and pass on, you winnow down to a half dozen. You're still allowed to breed. You're still allowed to have them come back if they disgruntled or whatever, as you said, someone gets evicted or something and needs to return a dog. I don't know. I'm just thinking out of the box. I'm trying to.
I know. I'd like to come up with a good solution too. I do think 6 is.
How about this as a suggestion? How about, this will cause Ms. Quay to wince, but what if we continue the matter to our October meeting and you and your neighbors try to come up with an amicable solution?
I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, I had no idea, Stuart Morgan, I've talked to him a number of times. He's never mentioned anything. These people who.
But they've heard tonight that you can have as many dogs as you want, as long as you don't board them or sell puppies commercially.
Right.
So that gives you a little leverage, and they have leverage themselves in their numbers and in their opposition to you. And then they're wanting the peace and quiet of a bucolic country community.
Well, I just don't know when is anyone going to want to get together with me and talk. I just don't know. It's COVID. Will I have to go? How will I even get in touch with people? I don't have their phone numbers.
I think you have a spokesperson in your neighbor, Mr. LaFerriere, who has circulated a petition. Obviously, he has the ear of many of the neighbors.
And all the phone numbers are on the petition, so.
Okay, I haven't seen the petition
I'll
or
give
your
you a copy.
letter.
I'll give you a copy.
Okay. I certainly, I know my dogs bark, but I had no idea people were that upset about it. What I have wanted to do in the past is ask if I could be somewhere in someone's yard and hear them. But I haven't even known how to do that, so I could hear what it sounds like when you're not right here. I know what it sounds like. I'm right on top of it.
You're probably immune to it.
I wouldn't say that. I yell a lot, but I've also asked a couple neighbors, what's worse, me yelling at the dogs while they're barking or the dogs barking? And they say, just let the dogs bark, I've been told. So,
I don't agree with that.
Okay, well, that's what, when I've asked a couple people, when I've run into them, and I don't want, and I do, I think I can come up with an agreement. I mean, I would do 8. 6 is just, I
just
don't,
I just put a number out there. This
I
is
know.
you to discuss with the neighbors. If neither one, either you or the LaFerriers don't want to do anything, we'll let the chips fall where they do May tonight. But I'm
What do you
always,
want to do, Hank?
Well, I'm glad to talk to you, but 8 dogs is a lot of dogs for me. It's about what we've been seeing out there on average. And, I just hoping that number will go down. I mean, when I was here before you got here, there were no dogs. So 8's a lot. Going from 0 to 8's a lot of dogs.
and Henry, she's allowed to have 35
Yeah.
under the current ordinance.
Yeah.
But you can't sell them.
No.
That's correct.
I won't be able to sell
I would
them.
like to vote on the proposal.
Right, because the underlying issue is the dog noise.
Right.
I mean, no matter what we do, unless the dog noise problem is solved, the neighbors are going to be unhappy.
Before you go any further, there has been a attendee who had their hand up for quite a length of time. Sue Terrio.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello. Okay, I just wanted to say that hello, Wilma, and I'm really glad I listened in tonight so I could hear your motivation for for coming to the zoning board. And I know as building officials change, like things can be confusing. I live south of Henry, and I appreciate Henry's family bringing this issue to our attention. I moved to this area knowing that you had dogs, and I hear them, but I am further south, and I wouldn't say it's a major issue for me. However, it was a major issue to hear the numbers that you were going for, like the 15 adults and the unlimited puppies. I find that wording to be frightening because puppies can make noise too. And I'm not totally sure how we define a puppy. And so just as a neighbor who's not on Facebook, because I know Facebook can be so toxic, but who's also wants to be supportive of a businesswoman, I just want to say that it was the fact that I was concerned that you were going to increase the number of dogs on your property, and I really didn't want that to happen. I like the way the conversation is going now, how we're talking about getting that number down from 15, but I would also like us to maybe look at the unlimited puppy language as well. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, the unlimited puppy that was the way it was written, not by me in my application. That I think is standard wording. I don't really know I don't believe I put that on my application. I breed, like I was saying earlier, 2, and 1 year I had 4 litters. I usually breed 2 or 3 litters. I've had a whole year without a litter.
Can you limit the number of litters?
Well, how many puppies would be the largest number you ever had? Or would have?
I had 11 puppies in a litter.
Oh, that was unusual.
It is unusual. I've had 2 puppies. I've had 3 puppies. 6 to 8 is kind of the normal. Like that to me is the ideal litter. Right now I have 6 puppies. It's great. They are 8 weeks old. They are going to their homes in the next, 1 left today and 1 leaves Friday, 1 leaves sometime next week, and the other ones follow. I had been planning on keeping one. I have decided to sell her because I don't want to increase my dogs. So my pick of the litter is going to sell.
I think we have a question before us as to whether or not the neighbors want to get together and with Mrs. Bruning and try to work something out. We continue until October, or I think it's time to make a decision on that, or else I think we're going to go to a vote. I think we've basically been over most of this ground already several times. Tack, do you want to?
I just, to address Ms. Bruning, addressing Ms. Terriel's issue, can you control, obviously you can't control the number of puppies in a litter. And do you control the number of litters in a year?
Absolutely, I do.
So.
That's why I have
if the
2 or
neighbors
3
agreed
litters.
That it would be no more than 2 litters a year.
Well, 2 litters, if you have okay, well, you can
Well,
control the litters, but let me,
excuse me, my point is, you can control the number of litters. You
well, I can and I can't.
All
I
right,
can breed a dog and hope she's going to be pregnant. There are no pregnancy tests for dogs. So you can't know for 30 days. Dogs are only able to be bred twice a year. So that's how I ended up with 4 litters that year, is I bred 4 dogs. They also cycle together. So 4 dogs were cycling. I bred all 4 thinking I would get 2 litters because they'd all come up empty the year before. And I got 4.
so if I'm
You know,
hearing
it's
you
not an
correctly-
exact, I can't breed a dog and say, hey, I'm gonna have puppies.
If I'm hearing you correctly, you could breed a dog, wait 40 days, and you would know whether that dog was pregnant.
Right, except if
If
another dog's in season within that 40 days, you only have a 3-day, you have 6 days a year to breed a dog, 2 3-day periods. That's all you have. We do progesterone testing, so we hit those days. I mean, it's not like you don't just throw them together and, you know, any week of the year and hope you get puppies. You're not going to, you have 6 days a year to breed a dog, 2 sets of 3.
I'll go with a statement that you can generally
Yeah.
limit the number of litters you have a year.
I can generally do it. You know, I might end up with a year that 2 litters is not enough. Because if something goes wrong with the breeding, I have nothing.
So back to you and Mr. LaFerrier, Henry, Hank, what do you want to do? You want us to make a decision tonight, or would you like to go back and try and work it out?
What do you want to do, Henry?
Yeah. We'll attempt to resolve it and then come back to October if that's okay with you.
I think we should
It's
vote.
fine, sure. That's good.
I have no problem with the vote either.
Maybe, we have to get the zoning board to agree to that. Some board members, as somebody just indicated, may want to vote this evening.
Well, let's vote.
I just assumed vote with restrictions, sort of like you said, tack, limit the number of dogs, limit the number of breeding, number of times you can breed, and get it over with, because she's running a kennel. I mean, there's no question of that, according to all our zoning rules. And if we just delay it, I mean, what we come up with?
What's a month in the overall scheme of things if the neighbors can work it out? It's my thought.
I think we're going to be dragged back into this, just dragged back in.
We may well be, George.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd see a
But
rush
my
here.
ongoing concern is the noise of the dogs. Unless you get rid of the noise, kennel license or no kennel license, you're gonna have an issue. It's not gonna be our issue, but it's gonna be an issue.
And I agree, Herb, but the more dogs you have, the more barking you have.
But if she can't sell the dogs, right, then what is the reason for her to have that many dogs?
It sounds like it's her passion, George.
So I just,
Breeding and raising German Shepherds.
right.
Then you have a monitoring issue of whether she's selling them or not. That's.
Well, okay, that wouldn't be our problem or our issue. That'd be the town's,
Well, it'd be the building official and
the building inspector, right? But I feel like a lot of the neighbors have come. We've discussed this for a couple hours. I don't know. I feel we should vote.
Objection.
Allison?
Yeah, so I would suggest that if Ms. Bruning is requesting a continuance, to give her time to work it out with the neighbors and possibly view things that she hasn't been able to, that the board consider her request. If she request, then that's a different story, but I would urge
I
the board
mean-
to ask me.
And Allison, who can vote on that? Just the 5 voting members or all board members that are here this evening on whether we continue the matter or not?
That's a good question. Let me check.
I mean,
Usually it's just the voting members, and it would be just a simple majority, but I just double check on that.
And we'd be voting for a continuance.
That's correct. Yeah.
I think that's normally just the 5.
I can get 8 dogs. Yeah. I mean, I would rather, I mean, I don't know. I would rather put it all to bed. If you want to do some restrictions, let's talk about the restrictions.
We're not gonna, it's gonna be a cram down, Ms. Bruning. We're gonna say it's 6 or 8 dogs or whatever. There's no boarding, there's only 2 litters a year, things like that, which maybe you may have better luck with your neighbors than the board. In other words, we acting like a judge here or a jury.
Okay.
And
if you think that that will be okay.
Your 35 dogs, but you're not gonna be able to sell any. And so what are you gonna do with all the puppies you breed? You know, you're gonna have to find a lot of good homes for them and not get any remuneration. You talked earlier about the expense that was involved in doing this. So keep that in mind too.
Yeah, I think that you should really consider that it is a kennel operation, and we would, as TAC has said, we would severely limit you if that, if no agreement can be gotten from the group that is so against us. I don't know that delaying attack is going to change that.
I don't think so.
It may well not, Fred and George, but as I said, if the neighbors can work it out, it's well worth waiting a month.
Well, you've
In
heard,
my opinion.
and you also only heard from one neighbor. You've only discussed this with Henry. There were several other neighbors that, you know, either are still on or on. So I don't know. I think we're making this more complicated.
I know.
Henry's the one who circulated the petition, George, and you know Henry and I know Henry. You know, he can be a catalyst, and he will probably, you may not get everybody, but you know, the people that signed the petition obviously have some faith in him as a spokesperson. So
No, I appreciate what you say, Tack. I'm sorry, I don't agree with you.
So I just would like to say that I would feel more comfortable with a continuance because this is.
Who's talking? I don't get to see who's talking.
I'm sorry, it's Michael Folcarelli.
Okay.
I think this gives Wilma a chance to either come up with a proposal. You know, this is quite a life-changing event to deny the license and eradicate her breeding business. I think that she deserves a continuance to be able to think this through, and maybe there is some kind of solution that is acceptable to the neighbors and would be forward thinking for Wilma. It's a lot for 2 hours to be able to just come up with a number of dogs, I think.
I agree, and you know, it'll also give Wilma and her husband a chance to see the petition, see the neighbors that signed it, and that may be a bit of an aha moment for them and say, hey, you know, let's try, you know, we live in this town, we want to try and be good neighbors, so.
Mr. Sawowski, before this goes any further, there is still one hand that is raised by Chad Valcourt, who did speak once before. I don't know if you want to hear from him before you move on.
Okay, Mr. Valcourt, but please be brief.
Yeah, of course. You know, 6 dogs, 100 dogs. I don't think the neighbors really care how many dogs she has. Mr. Case said it right. This is a noise issue, and I would agree. Let's continue it so that maybe we can figure something out with Wilmer, and she has another 30 days to, and the neighbors have another 30 days to see what we can do, because 6 or 8 dogs could still be noisy for us. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you very much. So
And one thing I would like to address, because a couple people brought it up, was the waste disposal. And we have a dumpster here. We collect the waste daily. We bag it and it leaves here in the dumpster. There is nothing being buried. Someone said something about it being buried or something. I don't know.
Okay,
There's-
thank you for.
Okay, just I
but-
want the neighbors to know that.
We need to know if you are willing to, or if you are requesting a continuance until October, and during which time you would try to work something out with Henry and your other neighbors.
Okay, yes.
Are you requesting that?
I will request that.
Okay, now I'd like to know, would that require 4 votes or 3?
Should be just a majority, I think, Mark.
Yeah, I do too. Okay, if anybody disagrees with that, let us know, but I think it would be 3.
And Allison, were you able to ascertain who may vote? Was it
Yeah,
just-
it's just the 5 voting members.
Thank you.
Okay, so do we make a motion? What's the,
Yeah, we
I believe
moved
Ms.
it.
Bruning has requested it.
excuse me? I didn't
I'm
hear you.
sorry.
I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry. I just said Ms. Bruning requested it, but
Yes.
go ahead.
Okay. She requested, but we have to approve it or deny it.
Yeah, we do. We have to approve. She has now requested a continuance, and we have to approve the continuance, and not at any cost to her.
Okay, so we just vote on it?
So, yeah,
Okay, so, okay.
You want a motion, Allison?
I think you need a motion.
That's what I was
Don't
thinking.
you?
Yeah, so somebody want to make a motion?
I'll
Tack?
make a motion that we continue this matter to our meeting of October 21st, and that it be first on the docket at that meeting.
Second,
Was Mr. Case, that's you, Herb?
yes,
You seconded? Great.
yes,
Okay, so we're ready to vote. Then I would start once again with Fred. So Mr. Berndorf,
Yes.
Mr. Case,
yes,
Mr. Ryan,
Yes.
and Mr. Goulart.
No.
No. And I would vote yes. So I see the vote is 4-1. So it looks like we're continued, and we'll see you in October. And wish you good luck.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for your time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Remember, half a loaf is better than none, you guys.
I was going to half.
Oh, boy.
All right, so Liz, can I ask something? How do I get copies of everything? Because that I don't have.
I'm sure the town hall will provide them for you.
Edie can give them to you.
The clerk
Okay,
9 in the morning, so she'll have a copy of that letter with a petition for you.
okay, thank
Maybe Go
you.
across the fence and get it from your neighbor Henry.
I'll be right
Maybe.
there.
All right, thank you. Good night.
Is there any further business for the zoning board?
No, I put off the rules and regulations, amending them till we still have a tsunami. We're going to have 3 matters on the docket in October.
Really?
One, so December, January, whenever we'll get to it. When things settle down a bit,
That's what we get paid for.
the big bucks.
Thanks again.
Okay. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll move that we adjourn.
Good. And seconded
second,
by Mr. Case, and all those in favor? I don't think we have to poll this one. Aye. Aye.
aye, we're out of here.
Great. Thank you very much, everybody.
Good night.
See
Good
you
night.
all.
Night.
Right.
It's the only way.
We all muted.